All right, welcome. We are live. This is Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. Okay, show this out, show this out, show this out. It's Friday night. Friday for me, Saturday for some of you on the other side of the prime meridian, and it is time for the law of one. Welcome. I can see Denise in the audience, and I can see Rick. Today I shared it to Orion Rising on Facebook and then shared it from there over to my page. So it looks like all the chats are comments in the chats are coming into StreamYard. We'll see if anybody's over on my page and you say something and I don't answer you or say hello to you. Then let me go over to Orion Rising and click in there and let me know so that I'll pay attention to what's going on there. I don't know what Facebook's issue is, what their problem is, but it's never working properly. It's always messing up, and they claim it's not them. Okay, so we'll share this out, please. Let me take this overlay off of the screen here so you guys can see my ugly mug. There we go. Okay, so today is March 1st, right? So the Ides of March. Some of you are already March 2nd, like I said, because you're on the other side of the prime meridian. But for the rest of us, or at least those of us that are, east or west of GMT, we're still in March 1st. So you guys east of GMT time, you guys are, especially the ones that are over here, because you guys are like 15 hours ahead of where I'm at, or 16 hours ahead of where I'm at. So for you guys, it's already March 2nd, right? So the Ides of March, either way, it's the Ides of March. Okay, let me go back over here so I can see you guys' comments, because I turned off that overlay, and because of that, I can't see the comments. So how are we doing today, guys? It's Friday, like I said, March 1st. I'm excited. I backed up a couple of questions. So we're on session 41, question 17. Right now, that's where we're going to do to start. Okay. And there's my sister, Deborah. Welcome. Welcome. That's my sister in real life right there in the audience, Deborah, right there. So welcome. Okay. So let's go ahead and do a sound check and get started. So instead of messing around, during the full moon in that time period last week and the week before, last couple of weeks, there was a lot of weird energy going on in the world, and it's probably still going on, but it's not affecting me like it was last week. Last week it was a little more effective. Peter, welcome. Ann, welcome. Okay, so I'm going to do a sound check and we'll get right into it. Like I said, we're on session 41, question 17. I backed up. I'm not exactly sure where we ended. I know that we were dealing with question 19. I don't know if we finished the session, so I'm going to go ahead and back up to where they were talking about chakras and the chakra centers and the speed or brightness of each chakra, and pardon me, and how Dawn asked Ra about first and second dimensional animals and whether they had the full spectrum of chakras. And of course, yes, you have those. Everything has all of those chakras. Everything. It is the building blocks of the universe, the archetypes that make up the universe and control everything in creation. The logos itself is made up of the chakra centers. Those are literally energy. Everything. They are gas. They are sound. They are liquid. They are vibration, energy, vibration, and the entire spectrum. They are in an octave within your body, which makes up the microcosm to the macrocosm. So as below, so above, as within, so without. In your body, in a tree, in a plant, in a dog, a cat, a bird, they all have the exact same chakra centers. They have different centers in the different joints, because every joint that we have, every knuckle that we have, everything that bends on whatever body that you have, a human body, or if you're a dog, cat, those are also chakra points, minor chakra points. So like dogs, for instance, would have less than the human condition. Whales would have less, but they have moving parts, just the same job and moving parts. So anything that moves has an energy field, an energy center, which is a chakra. But the main chakras that we have in our body are the main archetypes that are in everything, that are the building blocks of everything. And they go throughout the entire spectrum, the octave of each individual. So a person that is or something that is a first dimensional being still has all of the same chakras that you have. They just operate in a different way, depending and determined by the physicality of whatever that is: amoeba, a fish, a seahorse, a plant, a tree, air. That's a one-dimensional, a rock, a dog, cat, bird, mountain lion, bear. But they all have the same archetype chakras. Okay, so I didn't see Cassie came in. So hi, if Cassie did come in and say hello. I'm looking at the chat right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a sound check. You guys let me know if you guys can hear this and if it sounds okay, and I'll turn it up or down if you need it turned up or down. And we'll start hearing this. Like I said, this is session 41, question number 17.
41.18 questioner. Now,
18. 18.
Animal in second density is composed of light, as are all things. What I am trying to get at is the relationship between the light that the various bodies of the animal are created of and the relationship of this to the energy centers which are active and the ones which are not active, and how this is linked with the logos. It is a difficult question to ask. Can you give me some kind of answer on that? Ra, I am Ra. The answer is to redirect your thought processes from any mechanical view of evolution. The will of the logos posits the potentials available to the evolving entity. The will of the entity as it evolves is the single measure of the rate and fastidiousness of the activation and balancing of the various energy centers. 41.19 questioner. Thank you. In yesterday's, or the day before yesterday's session, you mentioned variable speed of rotation or activity of energy centers. What did you mean by that?
Thank you guys for letting me know that you guys can hear that. Okay, I turned it up a little bit for me. I'm not sure if that really affects you guys as much as it does for me, but I want to make sure that because I got the television going in the background in the other room for my mom, and I know that I've listened to the show. I know you guys can hear that in the background, but I can't do anything about that. I can't go in the other room and close the door anymore because I don't know what she's doing. She'll get up and walk out or fall asleep, and then if she falls asleep, she'll be up in the middle of the night, so I have to be able to see her. Right. So, Cassie, welcome. All right, let's continue.
Speed of rotation. Ra, I am Ra. Each energy center has a wide range of rotational speed, or as you may see it more clearly in relation to color, brilliance. The more strongly the will of the entity concentrates upon and refines or purifies each energy center, the more brilliant or rotationally active each energy center will be. It is not necessary for the energy centers to be activated in order in the case of the self-aware entity. Thusly, entities may have extremely brilliant energy centers while being quite unbalanced in their violet ray aspect due to lack of attention paid to the totality of experience of the entity. The key to balance may then be seen in the unstudied, spontaneous, and honest response of entities toward experiences, thus using experience to the utmost, then applying the balancing exercises and achieving the proper attitude for the most purified spectrum of energy center manifestation in violet ray. This is why the brilliance or rotational speed of the energy centers is not considered above the balanced aspect or violet ray manifestation of an entity in regarding Hive stability, for those entities which are unbalanced, especially as to the primary rays, will not be capable of sustaining the impact of the love and light of intelligent infinity to the extent necessary for harvest.
Right. So, Kari, welcome. Hi, I saw you there. If you don't say hi to me, all I see is numbers. I don't know who all is in the chat. If you guys are talking in the chat, I can see that and see who's here. So the brightness of the chakra, everybody gets this idea that if you're balanced properly, that your chakra is going to shine brighter. That's just not the case. The brightness of the chakra just means that it's active. It doesn't mean that it's actually being balanced properly. As you balance your chakras, they become more crystalline. So they're not getting brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter because you're really cool, though your aura, which is the energy that comes off of your chakra and your beingness, does expand. It doesn't get brighter, but it expands. It gets sharper, so it becomes more clear. So people tend to, I think, equate sharpness with brilliance, and there is a difference. Otherwise, we wouldn't have two words to describe sharpness and brilliance. So illumination it is not really necessarily the key to a balanced chakra, but the sharpness, the crispness, and as it moves into a crystalline state is when you have it actually in balance. So it can be out of balance. This is what Ra is saying here. It could be out of balance if you, even if it's very bright, in contrast to actually working properly. So that is, people are kind of lose that in their thought process. So we have to kind of, look at that and realize that, and then it's individual for each person as well, right? So you have to realize that how you balance your chakras is determined by your mindset and where you are spiritually, right? So you don't even activate really the higher end of the chakras above the heart. If you're in service to self, you're living in the bottom three chakras. So, and that's where you're really seriously focused, because you're not focused on any kind of spirituality or any kind of expansion of your consciousness, because you don't believe in that. You can't. To be physical, you can't believe in that, in the astral. So therefore you don't acknowledge that, or you defy it, which most people would say, I defy God. I defy that ideology. It's not real. It's fake. It's completely made up, because they believe that they are the thinking mind. They believe they are the pain body. They believe they are the ego. They just don't know that that's something separate from themselves. So they're, like I said before, many times they're not thinking I am the ego. They will say I have an ego, because they know that egoicness is that competitive nature that serves us all. But when you live in it and you think that that voice is you, that's when you're very seriously living in the flesh, right? Ali, welcome. Ali Umar, welcome. So you have to realize that, and as you start to expand your consciousness and things arise in your life to help you, give you the opportunity to expand your consciousness, you have to become aware of the self, even in the physical, because this is what we're in. This is the place that we are in. So you have to acknowledge that and live within the bounds here, as well as expand your consciousness. So you have to balance the chakras and learn how to do that to fix the totality, not just the hive mind complex totality of your beingness, not just the hive mind complex totality of the logos that we're living in, or the possibility of tapping into that hive mind complex of the human condition, that is the greater condition, which we do start to ascend to with a telepathic, empathic contact. But that's for people that believe in that. I mean, I literally posted about that on TikTok, and somebody said that only demons and Satanists travel astrally. That was a comment when I was talking about astral projection. That's a lie. Only demons and Satanists are capable of traveling astrally, astral projection, or even channeling anything. I didn't really go after the person, but I wasn't exactly just ignoring the comment. I didn't delete it. I love when people have different points of view, and I want them to have that, because I want people to read those things and think about that as a possibility, and then go down that road and question it themselves. That's like saying questioning things is out of order, because you shouldn't. You should be subservient to your king or queen or whoever's in charge, and you should ultimately be 100% subservient to that person and loyal to that person. That's what they'll tell you. That's just as prevalent in their mind as indoctrination into these so-called religions around the world that tell you there is nothing other than this place. You are nothing, and you have to wait for the bus to come back. Your God's going to come get you someday, but you don't know when. So be ready, because there's going to be a bus pull up, and then only those of you who are ready at that moment get to go, and everybody else, you're going to be the left behind. That's just all a lie. Just not how it is. It's not how any of those people in history were teaching that. That all got changed. And I actually asked the person, tell me where it says in any dusty old tome exactly what you're referring to. Doesn't say in the Bible that the only people who can in any way leave their body is evil people and Satanists and demons. Doesn't say that anywhere. The fact demons wasn't even brought into being as anything other than a word that you called somebody who was evil. Okay. Because that was, you're a demon, you demon, you demon. That was what they were called and referred to for a very long time in history until some after 400 years after Jesus's demise, when he was dealing with those who called themselves possessors of a soul, and they said, "We are legion," and he said, "Out you demons." But he wasn't saying as in an entity that is alive and working for the devil only, because that was a commonplace thing you called anyone who was evil. Humans, not just some disembodied spirit. But after 400 years after his death, when they wrote that, since then, for the last 2,000 years, some people have translated that as it must be this thing. And I have not found anywhere where that is described either, by the way. And I would love for somebody to find that says the part of the Bible that says, here's demons and what they are. And because it's not really said too much. And then all of a sudden, people indoctrinate this idea of possession by the devil and demons. And most people in religions don't abide by that. Yet the Roman Catholics refer back to a time before Catholicism, when the Romans in their religion believed that some people had something wrong with them and they were possessed by something. That's where that ideology comes from. If you're a theologian, you know that. So the Roman Catholic Church adopted the Roman ideology of working on somebody and depossessing them, right? And then that's come forward to now, to where whenever somebody doesn't know what's going on and they believe someone has evil spirits in their mind, they call somebody to try and get some. And that happened during Jesus, where Nicodemus couldn't free Mary Magdalene from her demons. And Jesus just walked up and said, "Stop," and freed her mind. Jesus never said that Mary Magdalene was in fact possessed by some evil creatures that had gotten in and moved her over. He never said that. So if you know anything about Bibles, you'll know that he never said that. He called them demons, but he didn't call that was evilness. Was called a demon. That's not a subspecies that is roaming around hiding under your staircase, going to jump you when you come walking by and get in there and move your soul over and go, "Oh, I own this body now." There is nothing in any religion that tells about that, except for in necromancy going back 10,000 years in the Middle East. Now, I'm not saying that it's disproven, because I am a Merlin. So necromancy is part of that ancient religion. But however, it's not what people think. Okay. So the chakra points, let's get back on a point. So the chakra points in your body you have to become aware of them and balance them. Possession, let's clarify that. Possession, because you have free will, possession cannot happen against your will. Okay, so people, unless you're like, "Oh no, I'm going to be possessed." You're telling yourself, "I'm going to be possessed by the demon, by the devil," and then you're telling your mind and your ego, and most of it is ego. It's a split personality. It's a psychosis where your brain splits and the ego takes on that personality. Right. And in some cases, and they haven't gotten this in science yet, they call it that. And it is, in fact, somebody that is able to that are confused in their mind, and they're actually seeing themselves from different personalities that they were actually those people in a different lifetime. And so they're taking on that because it's bleeding through, because they have a problem where they're not really able to focus here, and nobody's working with them, so they don't realize that. So they have multiple personalities. Most of that is brought on by a trauma, almost exclusively. It's hardly ever the case that somebody's just born with that issue, unless it runs in their family that they have these problems with that psychology. So some people might say that that's all hooey, but then again, you have free will, so you don't have to believe me. You can look that up or not. Tina, welcome. So you can believe it or not. So the chakras are very vital to your body. If everything's out of whack, is my point, the more that your chakras are out of whack and you're seeing things that are supposed to help you and assist you to expand your consciousness, yet have never been told anything whatsoever about expanding of your consciousness, and you say you live in the lower three chakras only, this could be confusing. And some people go, well, it must be a demon, because children do that. Must be the devil or demon, or must be God. God is angry with us, so we have to kill our firstborn female child, go and rape her and then kill her and cut her heart out, so God will be appeased. That's what they used to do. They used to literally go, well, we have to have a virgin girl, not a guy. They've hardly ever sacrificed. In some cultures they did, but in most of the religions that are currently on this planet, if you go back far enough, they all used to sacrifice people. Oh no, there's a drought. We don't have any rain. We have to kill one of our members in front of God, and so then God will allow it to rain. The Roman Catholics did that. Every religion did that, including the Vikings and the Hebrews. All of them. They used to murder their own kids until one day somebody said, that's just not why that's happening. And like the earth being flat, they would kill people over it for a long time until it finally went out and became passé. And people started saying, well, you know what, we can't be just murdering our own kids for no reason. And it doesn't seem to be helping once you actually start scientifically looking into it. So the point of that is that children who are uneducated will jump to conclusions. Well, I'm very religious, so therefore everything must be God. And a lot of religions will try to get you to believe that everything is God, and no matter what happens. I remember when I was a kid in the Christian churches, they told you if you played with yourself, it would rain. You would cause it to rain by masturbating. And then you would also go blind by masturbating. So, I mean, come on, they were lying to you as a child, telling you things that just were untrue. So your whole entire ideology of reality is askew, because your parents are lying to you, everybody around you is lying to you. And then if you have any abilities, those are your special friends, just ignore that and don't talk about that. None of that's real, because only demons and Satanists can do that, because that's what the church is telling you. It's part of the Jedi mind trick, the gaslighting, to keep you from expanding your consciousness. So even the chakras in the Christian and Hebrew world, for decades, generations. You guys don't know this, because if you've grown up now, you can talk about chakras. Most people still don't know about them. And the reason you don't know about them is because if you talked about Eastern ideology, and that's what they consider that, which every culture, the Romans, the Egyptians, all of those are east from America because we're the West. But they considered all of that to be magic and fake, right? And so they didn't want anybody to know about it. Literally into the 70s and 80s in the United States, that was still called a cult, still is to this day. Everything's called a cult now by the secular people that are in charge. They call every religion a cult. There is not a religion on the face of the earth that they acknowledge as anything, because they can't. Right. So let's continue. So you have to realize that just the idea of the energy centers, energy wheels, wheel of life, that's what they called it in every culture. This has more to do with the eradication of spirituality than it does who's wrong and who's right. It has everything to do with the eradication of any ideology that will in any way aid the human condition into the spiritual mindset, because that's not where they want you to be. This is what Raw is warning about, that the Orion Crusaders, when they got here, first thing they did was made all of that illegal, made all of that not something that you can learn. Reading, writing, religion, especially communism to this day. In most communist countries, they don't allow you to have a religion. Why? Because they don't want you expanding your consciousness. They don't want you asking questions. They want your obedience, and the best way to get your obedience is to keep you from in any way becoming spiritual and thinking for yourself, being a childlike mind, stuck in 3D, so that everything is like drug addicts, to where how dare you disrespect me, and you're either for me or against me, and you're either my friend or my foe, and all that absolute lizard brain stuff. It's the only way that they can control the population. That is literally the underlying message of the law of one. Let's continue.
41.20 Questioner. Could you tell me the difference between space/time and time/space? Ra, I am Ra. Using your words, the difference.
Okay, hold on. Denise had a good question. See, I got to start putting on my glasses so I can pay attention, because Denise said, how do we know if our chakras are unbalanced? That's actually a really good question. If you're not, the question should be, how can you tell if they are in balance? Because your chakras are most of the time out of balance. It takes work to constantly retune your chakras, because this place is trying to pull you down into the bottom 3 chakras, okay, at all times. Everything, the news, television, the internet, this reality, the so-called reality's job is to keep you trapped here. This is done on purpose. That's why some people use that lie and say, well, this is a prison because some evil people that were in charge have the ability to shock your soul and erase your memory, and they put you into bodies and you come down here. And that's what the Matrix was trying to tell you in the movie, that when they usurp that whole ideology, and that they bring you down here and then you mind wipe you. And so there's a little truth there, because the creator of the universe decided that. But they don't acknowledge that there's a creator of the universe. So they tell you a little bit of truth with the lie that they're trying to tell you. So they say, well, you're a slave, and there's these aliens in a spaceship, because they'll let you believe that. They don't want you to. They would rather you believe in it, aliens flying around out there with machines to stop you from transitioning, and then they scare you so that if you do have an out of body experience or near death, an NDE, you end up if you have the memory of it, then you go, yeah, and I was out of my body, and they weren't telling me I was going to heaven. They were telling me I was going to go back to where I came from. Because that's what was going on. And that'll freak you out, because if you've been driven your entire life into believing, and I'll get back to the chakras, trust me, into believing that you have one life, and then you go to this place called heaven, and then you get out there and find out the reality that plays into the lie that they're telling. They know what's really going on out there. So they're like, well, there's these aliens that are out there in spaceships, and they're hiding, and we can't find them on radar, but they're out there because they know about us and they have better technology, and they have these machines that are out there. And so don't go into the light. If you die, don't go into the light. Run for your life and try to get back in your body. And if you don't have a body and you can't get back, then try to find one and possess it. So they lie to you, and then when you come back and you go, I had this thing, I didn't go through that long tunnel like other people did, and they're like, see, told you, and what happened? Well, then there was these beings that were there, yeah, kind of like when you do an ayahuasca or a DMT trip, right? There was these beings that were there, but they didn't look like us, and they seemed to be telling you good things. They were evil, and they were telling you that you're on some secret mission and you have to come back. They're lying to you to get you to come back here so they can imprison you. Oh, so they're actually external aliens that are parked offshore somewhere, and they have a machine that goes boonk on your soul, and they know how to do that. See, and so they put you down here, and they're possessing your soul and keeping you here. Okay, to what end? Oh, to mine gold for them. Weird, because nobody's showing up to pack up the gold. If I were in charge, I've said this before, why would you not let the people know? Oh, it's vital that everyone don't know about them. Why? If that's the case, why don't we have prisons here where people don't know they're in prison, and no one figures it out? There was a movie called The Island that was similar to that, but that was clones, and they didn't know they were clones. And so because of that, they were having an organic life. And if their person needed their body part, then you got to go to the island, but no one ever heard from you again, because that was paradise. And then when you went to the island, they killed you and took the organ out and put it in the other person and made another one of you, and you were born and put it in a different place so nobody noticed the same person coming back in. Okay, so that's what they're trying to say is going on here. Well, to what end then? Well, because they want you to be robots here and to do something for them. No one's doing anything for them. Everybody's just living here and trying to pile over each other. So what is it that we're doing? Where's the tithing we're paying? Well, they show up in secret. Weird, because the same people that will tell you that story will tell you that the earth is flat and there's no space travel. So the same people will tend to buy into certain things, right? Astral projection is possible, but now it's a demon or a devil or a Satanist. So now humans can astral project if they believe in the devil. Oh, never mind that now, because it's evil. You don't want to do that. Do you see how this is? So all of this is very confusing on purpose, because they don't want you to, the one thing that they keep steering you away from is the one thing that you need to be paying attention to. So my point of all of this is that it's harder to say. You should assume at all times that most of your chakras are out of balance, and you should be looking into ways of tuning your chakras so that you can keep them in alignment. And how you know that you're in alignment, we tell people this all the time, and that's why I said this is a really good question, and your question would probably be better suited to you by saying, how do I know that I am in alignment? Because if you are in any way getting knowledge or expansion of your consciousness into, like someone would ask me, how do I know that I'm ascending? If you're getting deja vus, that's a good sign. If you're starting to have any kind of precognitive ideology, the only way that happens is that your body is aligned. You're aligning your chakras. So if you're not aligned, to get back to exactly your question, if some of your chakras are out of balance, then you're going to have issues like you're not going to be able to cope with certain things. You'll get triggered. If you act any way of the flesh, where if somebody says Trump and you get triggered, you have a chakra, your wisdom chakra is out of alignment. Okay. If you get triggered, say over emotional when you watch, when you watch television or you're watching a movie and say an animal gets hurt and you get over emotional, but if a human gets hurt, you don't care. And you're like, I care more about animals than I do humans. Your heart chakra is out of balance, because if your heart chakra was balanced properly, you would have just as much issue with a human being hurt, no matter whether they deserve it or not. If you're thinking that they deserved it, then your wisdom, your upper chakras are not balanced properly at your heart chakra. Do you see? So there's ways of telling by paying attention. You have to look within yourself and start fixing yourself so that you can see your chakras and know how to balance them personally. But you can look into that and be taught how to work on that. Some people claim to know how to see chakras, and I can just balance your chakra and make it work. And what they're not telling you is that you're the one that actually does that. So it's really hard. That's why the only way that you can actually ever work on that is you have to do the shadow work, like Carl Jung would say. You have to look within yourself and start fixing yourself and admitting to yourself that you are flawed, and admitting to yourself that I'm not perfect and that I have to fix things about myself. How do people see me? How do I see myself? You have to realize that the way you see yourself is nothing compared to the way other people see you. We all see ourselves. That's why I liked in the movie, the television series, The Old Man, conversation that his love interest had with him when she was talking about that. She was explaining to him how people never see themselves as the bad guy. Even bad people and evil people never see themselves as a bad guy. They see themselves as somebody that's doing something for the greater good, or even the ones that truly are balanced, even as evil, are like, I'm not doing this for anybody but myself. They're at least being honest. That's why if you go to what Captain Jack Sparrow said when he said evil people are dishonest, honestly, you can count on them to be dishonest, because they're not trying to hide it. It's the honest people that you have to worry about, because you don't know whether they're truly being honest or now I'm going furthering what he said, because they, for time constraints, stopped it right there. After he said the honest people are the ones you have to worry about. Why he said that was because most people who are evil are pretty much in your face about being evil. You can count on them to always be that way. Look at politicians. They're in your face and they just put it out there in front of your face. And then when you question them, they go, oh no, I was kidding. That's when they all of a sudden become honest. They're trying to pretend they're honest. So your chakras are most of the time out of balance. You have to assume that, and then start working on yourself to balance yourself. Once you start balancing yourself, your chakras start to balance. Once you start ascension and get out of the lower three chakras, you naturally will start aligning yourself, because you're aligning yourself with a decision. Or choose to be evil and all self-serving, and then you're going to balance the lower three chakras from the heart, and so four if you count the heart, from the heart down, and they'll be better in alignment. And then you'll find that things become easy for you because you won't have a problem with raping and killing and pillaging and stabbing people in the back and doing that. So if you want to be successful on this planet in one way or the other, you have to make a choice. If you're like, well, I'm going to pretend that I made the choice and I'm going to stay right here, then you become that gray area, and everything's out of whack because you're not evil enough to be successful in evil, and you're not good enough to be successful in the good. That all has to do with the totality of your body. So that every decision that you make is based on your chakras and where they are. So they're out of alignment if you're not an archetype. If you're not seeking wisdom and seeking knowledge and seeking love and starting to live in that place, once you start living there, you'll know that you are. And then your whole life changes. What you eat changes. What you like changes. That's how you know you're starting to align your chakras. You don't have to go and have a test where you have, I got to go and pay a psychic so they can look at my chakras. They're never going to, I have yet to meet a psychic that has ever said, you're good, you don't need anything. Never. Because they're trying to make money off of you as well. So no one ever says, but then again, there's a very good possibility. It's like when you get attachments, and I tell people this, and I've been trying to teach this for 35 years, more than that actually, because I'm 56 right now, and I've been doing it since I was like 15. So what is that? Right? I guess that's 35 years. 35 and 35 is 70. So if it was before that, so maybe it wasn't exactly 35. But my point is that I've been trying to teach this because the truth is in that when you go out into public and you're in any way meeting other people, just driving and you seeing them, negative energy is going to get attached to you. So every time that unless you're living in a cave and you're hiding from the world, you're going to get negative energy attached to you. So you're going to come out of balance. By going out in the world and getting that ickiness from other people and communicating with other people, you then will become out of balance if you don't rebalance yourself. So every time I tell people when they ask the same question, how often should I cleanse to make sure I don't have negative energy? Every single day. Every day you should be aware of that. The same thing with, you should assume that your chakras are trying to become out of balance. Every time you turn on the television, every time you go on the internet, you're going to be exposed to the ickiness of all people. So you have to assume that always they're out of balance, and you have to assume that you always have to retune yourself and stay diligent in your own ideology and your own expansion of your consciousness to then keep yourself righted at all time. And then there are telltales, whether you're becoming more of the flesh or if you're going more in the spiritual. If you're going more in the spiritual, then your mind starts to open up and you get abilities, and you start having deja vus, and you start having vivid dreams, and sometimes precognitive dreams and thoughts and things like that. That is like one of the tells for me. If I know that I'm on the right track in my spiritual way, I get a lot more deja vus. So I know this is the right. So and you're always moving. The algorithm of this place and your personal algorithm moves you off course, and you have to constantly adjust. That's what this place is designed to do. It's designed to make it hard because it's trying to teach you how to stay the course of this roller coaster that is life. So it's always, because we're in the place of doing, it's always going to pull you out of balance, and your ego's trying to do that. The ego that is the television, the ego that is the internet, the ego that is the actual ecosystem is trying to do that at all times. So that was a great question. I know I went on far too long, probably wringing that out far more than you wanted, but everything is the opposite. So if you say, how do I know my chakras are out of balance? I have to say, how do you know your chakras are in balance? Right? So yes, they're always out of balance, but yes, they're always in balance, and you have to decide where and when that is. And that happens daily. You have to always work. This is not something where I know everything. Anyone who says that, I don't need to evolve, I know everything, they're lying to themselves, their ego. So you have to constantly be on guard. You have to constantly be cleansing. You have to constantly be retuning. You have to constantly be working at this place to better yourself, or not, and do the complete opposite and just go for likes, clicks, power, money, fame, and all of the things that are in the 3D, and then do that really good and throw off any idea of who gives a shit about other people and stay in that evilness and just become somebody that is going to get rich and be a billionaire, because that's the only way you can do that. You can't do that and be spiritual, because being spiritual is going to have you not want to do that, because you're not looking for the things in the physical. Do you see? So you have to make a choice and stick with it. You can't walk the line. Everyone says, no, I walk the line between good and evil. No, you don't. You can't. You can't. You either are one or the other, or you're pretending. You're lying even to yourself. Oh no, I'm ascending. Are you? Have you made any progress lately? Well, yes. Well, I don't know why I'm not. Well, because something's blocked. One of your chakras are blocked. You're blocking yourself. You're not doing something. Do you see? So it's a very simple thing, because just assume that it's always that way. Is that a paranoid thought? Some would say that, right? But it's true. Just the way things work. It's true. So you have to constantly assume that everyone is bombarding you, because they are. The world is trying to stop you. Your ego is trying to stop you. Other people's egos are trying to stop you. This place is designed to not let you win, but you can win. You have to realize that. It's actually easier than you think. Once you realize I'm not going to be in this place and stuck in this place, and I'm going to ascend, then it just starts happening, because then you start taking those steps, and then your life starts to become better. Even people that are religious will tell you that. If you're a Christian, let's just say a Christian, if you're living your life that way and you get rid of people that are not in your life, that are evil in your life, and you start going to church, you start associating with people, and is there evil people there? Yes, there's evil people everywhere. 14% of the population is evil. And evil people seek power. So you're going to have like the Pope and some of those people. Some of them are evil and some of them are not. Business-minded people that are politicians, most of them are going to be evil, because evil people seek power, always. So you have to assume that and know that and live within the bounds of that, even though realizing I'm not that. And I'm not going to just allow them to just do that to the world. Right. But I'm not going to be thinking I have to go physically fight them and overthrow governments and that kind of stuff. All you have to do is enlighten people. You don't have to physically start killing everybody. OK, let's continue. Hopefully that explained it. And I know it was like, what 20 minutes or so of me talking about it. Let's continue.
Difference is that between the visible and invisible, or the physical and metaphysical. Using mathematical terms, as does the one you call Larson, the difference is that between S/T and T/S. 41.21 question.
Before that, I wanted to say hello to, I guess it's Agneta. Hello to, who else was here that I just saw? Carolyn or Caroline, depending on how you say the name. Kelstar, I hope I'm saying that right. Hi for you guys, because I saw you in the chat. You said something. If you don't say anything in the chat, I don't know you're here. I just see numbers. But if you actually say hello, I will acknowledge that you're here. And if you do say hello and I don't say anything, then let me know, right? Joanne Lewis, welcome as well. So if you don't say anything, I don't know you're here. And then some people are just, not talkative. If this is your first time, you may not want to say anything. That's okay too. You're not required to do anything or say anything. You're not even required to sit and listen to me talk. All right, let's continue with the question from Raw.
You mentioned in the last session that fasting was a method of removing unwanted thought forms. Can you expand on this process and explain a little more about how this works? Ra, I am Ra. This, as all healing techniques, must be used by a conscious being, that is, a being conscious that the ridding of excess and unwanted material from the body complex is the analogy to the ridding of mind or spirit of excess or unwanted material. Thus the one discipline or denial of the unwanted portion as an appropriate part of the self is taken through the tree of mind down through the trunk to subconscious levels where the connection is made, and thus the body, mind, and spirit, then...
I did. I'm sorry, Penny. I just realized that because I saw you talking, but I didn't have my glasses on. Hi, Polly. Hi, Penny. Penny says, I guess Leo just doesn't see me. No, I did see you, but I was trying to figure out who said hello, and I didn't say hi to you, and I was saying hi to the newer people, and then I saw you again without my glasses on, and was like, no, I got to say hello. I apologize because I didn't say hello, and I saw your name there, but if I don't have my glasses on, sometimes I misunderstand who's who, right? So I put them on and was like, no, Penny, hi. I apologize. I saw you there. I did, really. I know it's okay. It is okay because I didn't say hi to you, and that was rude, right? You're here every week. I should make sure that I said hi. I try to say hi to everybody if I see them, right? So I apologize if I didn't. So that's why I saw Polly and then you right below that, and I was like, I'm going to say hi to both of them. I'm going to stop. All right, let's continue.
In unison, express denial of the excess or unwanted spiritual or mental material as part of the entity. All then falls away in the entity, while understanding, if you will, and appreciating the nature of the rejected material as part of the greater self. Nevertheless, through the action of the will purifies and refines the mind/body/spirit complex, bringing into manifestation the desired mind complex or spirit complex attitude.
Right. So literally, like I was just saying, right? And I know Carolyn, welcome, new to my page, welcome. You'll either think I'm crazy, and you'll run away, or I'll confuse you because I'll be saying things that'll be pulling you out of your comfort zone, which is okay because that's what I intend to do here. Or you'll think this is basic because you're already past this. A lot of people come in and go, "Dude, this is basic." Yes, it is for you, but not for everybody, right? So some people are that way. So literally, so what we're doing here, if you are new, is I'm playing. If you read the description, between 1981 and 1984, the LL Research Group was using channeling to try and reach out into the universe to see if anybody was out there, aliens, whatever, anybody. And they made contact with an entire species, a hive mind complex, an entire species, thinking as one individual being, and they called themselves Ra. And then immediately Dawn, the questioner, said, "We have a Ra here on our history in Earth. In Egypt, are you that Ra?" And then Ra said, "Yes, we are Ra. We walked among your people. We built your pyramids." 106 channeling sessions later and 6 books later, between 1981 and 1984, and the books came out within the next 4 or 5 years after that. This information has been out there, and I've already done all 106 sessions a few years ago, explaining that in details, and I'm doing it again, but explaining it in further, more intense details than I did the first time. So what you're going to hear is Ra talking to Dawn, who is a nuclear physicist, in a verbiage that is understood by Dawn as a nuclear physicist. And so the language is very, what's the word, 25-cent words. If you're American, you understand what that means. So it's very big words and complicated because Ra's trying to give the most information possible with the least amount of verbiage. And I'm breaking all of that down. My part of my past is that I was a physicist in college, and I was going to be a nuclear physicist and go to work for the federal governments of the world, until I realized very early on that they were in fact evil and being run by evil people. And so I didn't go to work to them for them, and I utilized the information that I have in my not being veiled to assist this planet. That is why I'm here, is to assist the planet. So I'm here to answer your questions and to explain to you this methodology and the information that was coming through back 40 years ago, and then updating that, because at the time, 40 years ago, Ra could not give fully the information that you guys can receive now, because the hive mind complex of the human totality, the human condition, 40 years ago, 45 years ago, was, or 40 years ago, was completely exponentially less of a place or in a place to for the expansion of the consciousness into a spirituality than this entire planet is today. So you guys can gain, because of some of the laws in the universe and the way they work, the law of free will and chaos. You can only know, and I can only tell you individually what you're ready for. Even if it's crazy sounding to you, that will assist you to expand your consciousness. But if you go to a psychic and you ask a question to a psychic, and it's something that you have designed into your life that you want to learn organically, the psychic won't be able to tell you that, because you're supposed to go through that on your own. Your own higher self will not allow the psychic, and the universe itself will not allow the psychic to tell you the answer to that, because you're supposed to learn it on your own. So the same thing applies to the entire species at a given time. where the development of the human race is. So if you go backwards in time 2,000 years, let's just say to when Jesus was around, the information that he could tell people 2,000 years ago is nowhere near the information that if Jesus were here today, Jesus could tell the entire world. The message that Jesus would give would be much more alien to those people 2,000 years ago. They wouldn't understand it. In fact, if you look into the history of all the different religions in these Bibles, these tomes, and know that I am a minister of 4 different religions, and I am a theologian. I have been practicing and teaching and learning religion my entire life. Not a joke. Not a joke. And if you look at all of these ideologies from the ancient time compared to now, most of them have prophecy where they tell you, this information I'm giving you, God is talking to Daniel or a few other people. This information that I'm giving to you, you will never understand. This is information that is to be written down, but only understood by people far into the future. They're showing you, even in the dusty tomes that are these religious texts, that they wouldn't understand the information because they can't. They can't fathom the information, but there's going to be a time when the development of the human condition on this earth is going to be in such a place to where this information is going to be prevalent to them and almost commonplace to their knowledge or understanding. Do you see? So just 40 years ago compared to now, I don't know how old you are, but if you look back to your childhood compared to now in the way you thought, at the time, and how you've expanded your consciousness in whatever way, now you're going to realize that that has exponentially changed. The human condition also changes exactly the same way. And if you go back in time prior to that, it's further and further away from the light, as it were. The pendulum was swung way away from the light, and there was far, 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 far less people who were spiritual minded in any way than there is today. So people say, oh, this world is going to hell in a handbasket and it's worse than it's ever been. That's actually not true. This, in a spiritual sense, this planet is in a better place than it has been for 75,000 years. And you can look that up to see if that's true. And I suggest to everybody not to believe a word that I say, think that I'm lying to you and look everything up. Because the second you start asking questions, that's what everyone is trying to teach you throughout all of time, is question everything and ask questions. So I can't convince you of anything. The only thing I can do is make you think for yourself. That's a direct quote from 5,400 years ago from Socrates. Let's continue.
41.22 questioner. Then would this be like a conscious reprogramming of catalyst? For instance, for some entities, catalyst is programmed by the higher self to create experiences so that the entity can release itself from unwanted biases. Would this be analogous then to the entity consciously programming this release and using fasting as the method of communication to itself? Ra, I am Ra. This is not only correct but may be taken further. The self, if conscious to a great enough extent of the workings of this catalyst and the techniques of programming, may through concentration of the will and the faculty of faith alone cause reprogramming without the analogy of the fasting, the diet, or other analogous body complex disciplines. 41.23 questioner. I have a book, Initiation, in which the woman describes initiation. Are you familiar with the contents of this book? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. We scan your mind. 41.24 questioner. Jim has read the entire book. I have only read part of it, but I was wondering if the teachings in the book with respect to balancing were your teachings, Ra's teachings. Ra, I am Ra. This is basically correct with distortions that may be seen when this material is collated with the material we have offered. 41.25 questioner. Why are the red, yellow, and blue energy centers called primary centers? I think from the previous material I understand this, but is there some tracing of these primary colors back to intelligent infinity that is more profound than what you have given us? Ra, I am Ra. We cannot say what may seem profound to an entity. The red, yellow, and blue rays are primary because they signify activity of a primary nature. Red ray is the foundation, orange ray the movement towards yellow ray, which is the ray of self-awareness and interaction. Green ray is the movement through various experiences of energy exchanges having to do with compassion and all-forgiving love to the primary blue ray, which is the first ray of radiation of self regardless of any actions from another. The green ray entity is ineffectual in the face of blockage from other selves. The blue ray entity is a co-creator. This may perhaps simply be a restatement of previous activity, but if you consider the function of the logos as representative of
Yes, the chakras. Denise said chakras. Yes, going from the base red ray root chakra, the number one chakra, and he's literally gone all the way into the indigo. And so violet is the seventh chakra, right? So literally explaining going up to the fourth, the fifth. Actually, he's just gone into the fifth, not the sixth or the seventh. Or actually, he went up into the sixth. So literally, he's explaining that as he's moving up. But I don't know if he hits violet right here, but I'm sure he will because he'll round out the seven chakras, and those are all the seven archetypes. The seven churches in the revelation of Jesus Christ, literally seven churches, seven letters to seven churches, and that's literally telling you indirectly. So it's esoteric, it's internalized. Some people think esoteric means hidden. Well, it does mean hidden, but it means internalized. The actual Greek word means internal. And exoteric means exit. That's where we get the word exit from. Exoteric means outside. So it is esoteric because knowing when that information was printed 2,000 years ago, it had to get past the editors of people throughout time that would be trying to pull any books out of the Bible that was explaining or in any way were explaining spirituality and how to ascend. So the books that were left in have secret messages in them because the people between then and now and all the different councils around the world, like the First and Second Council of Nicaea, who pulled out like 185 books out of the current canon, and tried to destroy them and killed a whole bunch of people called the Essenes who hid them in the Dead Sea area, hence the Dead Sea Scrolls that we found in 1948, finding out that those people had been murdered to keep that information from being known to the planet, but they hid it, and none of them gave it up, and they were all killed for it. This we know in history now from looking into it. So why is that? Because all of the scrolls that were in there, people try to say now, well, those aren't actually legit anyways. Well, then why is it that the church at the time saw fit to go and murder all those people to shut them up if those were all just crap? Because today, if you say something that the establishment thinks is a lie, they just go, conspiracy theory, right? They don't go and murder you anymore. They just go, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, then they've done that with everything, haven't they? Right? Okay. So you have to realize that at this point, Ra's explaining the chakras, and I think they will get into the violet right here. So let's continue that.
The infinite creator, in effectuating the knowing of the creator by the creator, you may perhaps see the steps by which this may be accomplished. May we ask for one final full question before we leave this working? 41.26 Questioner. This may be too long a question for this working, but I will ask it, and if it is too long we can continue it at a later time. Could you tell me of the development of the social memory complex RA, from its first beginnings, and what catalyst it used to get to where it is now in activation of rays? Is this too long a question?
I didn't see that. That happened a couple of times. I think I realized that last time as well. That I didn't fix that. So he said of RA. So he's asking about the hive mind complex that is Ra. And so Ra's going to explain that, I think, and then we'll go to the next session. If he doesn't explain it here, if they don't explain it here, they'll explain it in the next session.
Ra, I am Ra. The question does not demand a long answer, for we who experienced the vibratory densities upon that planetary sphere which you call Venus were fortunate in being able to move in harmony with the planetary vibrations within harmonious graduation to second, to third, and to fourth, and a greatly accelerated fourth density experience. We spent much time/space, if you will, in fifth density balancing the intense compassion we had gained in fourth density. The graduation again was harmonious, and our social memory complex, which had become most firmly cemented in fourth density, remained of a very strong and helpful nature. Our sixth density work was also accelerated because of the harmony of our social memory complex, so that we were able to set out as members of the Confederation to even more swiftly approach graduation to seventh density. Our harmony, however, has been a grievous source of naivete as regards working with your planet. Is there a brief query before we leave this instrument?
See, and I wanted to point out here, because there's so many people that talk about Ra, and they claim that they're in the fifth density, moving into the sixth density. And I was like, wait a minute, they're about ready to move into the seventh density. And everyone says, I don't know where you get that. Well, there we are, session 41, the very last question, or second to the last question, asked by Dawn. Ra says that they are in the sixth, and they're about ready to move into the seventh. But the only reason that they're not is because they're waiting around to try and help fix the Earth to graduate into the fourth. Okay. So there's nobody, everyone always says they always put them back in the fifth going into the sixth. And I'm like, they're in the sixth, about ready to go in the seventh. And they're waiting to help people here before they go into the seventh, because the communication gets more difficult the higher up you get. Once you move past the octave is the first 7 densities. Here again, the 7 chakras. Okay, so this octave, the lower octave, is 1 through 7. And then from 7, you go 8 through, and no one really knows the answer to that. We believe that it's 8 through 12 or 8 through 13. So it's actually not 2 7s. But some people say it's infinite even from that. And nobody can know the answer to that, because people that are in the 8th dimension do not come back down to and communicate much with people down here. They communicate in a channeling way to answer some questions, but they don't talk about what goes on up there or any of that. So everything that is here down here is speculation above 7, because the truth is that even your higher self is only halfway through the 6th dimension, 6th density. Okay. So the truth is, we really don't know how long it takes to get back to the one source. So we believe, though, because of the math, and because as below, so above, as within, so without, as the math goes, that because there are 7 chakras, then the 14, right? And because of the number 12, it could be 24. And the enigma of 24 down here for mathematicians, which I've posted so that you guys can really trip out on it if you're a mathematician, literally will tell you that it's possible that there's 24 or 28 cycles. But that could be a cycle within a cycle, like when people are thinking we're going into the 3rd and 4th, or going into the 4th and 5th dimension right now. Currently, we're not. We're going into the 4th and 5th density of the 3rd dimension. So it is a place where we are expanding our consciousness as an evolution, as a human being, but we're not changing physical places to a 4th dimensional plane of existence. We're going into a spiritual plane that is a 4th dimensional spiritual plane and a 5th dimensional spiritual plane. And so some people have already got us jumping now. This exponentially happens. First, there was no other place besides 3rd dimension. And then there was 4th and 5th dimension. And we're shifting into the 5th and passing through the 4th completely. We're just skipping over and going to the 5th. Now I hear people were saying we're going to the 12th. That now we're jumping from 3rd dimension to 12th dimension as a human species, and we're just bypassing all of that learning that needs to be done in order. And that's not the way the universe works, but at all. And some people say, I'm coming from the 12th dimension and I'm here helping you. It's very rare that a being will come from as high to come back and be in physical form. It does happen. There are a lot of us that have. Okay, and I didn't come from the 12th, but I came from the 11th, which would get some people going, that just doesn't happen. Well, it doesn't for 99% of the people, but some people up there, and this is what people don't realize, that some people that are that far more advanced than the people down here have never gone through the veiling. And so some of those people are coming down here to go through the veiling for the very first time and having an organic experience that they didn't never have, because they were created and separated from source in a time before the veiling was ever thought up. That scares people to even think, wait a minute, no, they mean this is new? Yeah, it's relatively new in the mindset of the creator. Even though it's been around for, a couple of trillion years, the universe is far older than that, and the creator is far older than that, because the creator is infinite. The creator itself doesn't even know how old the creator is. That's how long the creator's been around.
41.27 Questioner. I'll only ask if there's anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact. Ra, I am Ra. All is well. I leave you, my friends, in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite creator. Adonai.
I didn't realize, Peter, welcome. And Cody, welcome. I didn't realize Peter was giving the math and talking about the dimensions and how old, right? So that's kind of funny. All right, so let me unshare this and reshare. Let me stop sharing here, and then I'll reshare the next. I have to open that, so let me close that window and I'll open the next session, okay? Hold on, I have to find the session, the next one here. Okay, let me open this and then pause it because it'll start talking, and then let me share it. And then make sure you guys can hear it, right? So let me do that, and we'll go into the next session. We'll get started on that today. All right, so let me get out of that screen so you guys can see my ugly mug and you won't just see that, right? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start this session number 42, and you guys let me know. I'll do the sound check, and you guys let me know if you can hear, okay?
March 22nd, 1981. 42.0 Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. 42.1 Questioner, I have a question on balancing. It's quite long, and we'll copy it direct.
Okay, so hold on, because Cassie was saying something. Let me make sure she's not talking to me, right? If they have worked on what they wanted to, I think you're answering somebody on down here, or how far they've enlightened themselves here. Like Leo said, if they've been in service to self, then they'll go further in that direction as well. Yeah. So the split is when you make that choice, whether you're aware of it or not. If you're all about likes and clicks and power and money and fame and that kind of stuff, that's all the lower three chakras. That's the orange ray chakra, right? So the yellow ray chakra, because the orange ray is the place of realization, of self-realization. So the yellow ray is this place. The third dimension is the yellow ray. That's why the sun's rays, Sol, our sun, is a yellow sun, because it's in the yellow ray place of the development of the human condition. So literally, if that is what you're about, and then you're being self-serving, and that's called eating of the tree of life. That's called living in the flesh. That's what that is about. That's when you're following, you're believing that you are the ego, or you listen to your ego and you're very egoic. So once you make the determination or the choice to pick one or the other, then you change your entire existence. You either revel in the third dimension and become Taylor Swift, or some actor or a president or a corporation head or whatever, because you're being self-serving and you're worried about that, and you want to make all this money because you want to have money, power, fame, control of other people, and dominate people. And if you want that, then you have to make that choice. You can't have both. That's why I always say, if that's what I was about, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is they don't reward you for being spiritual. No one does. They're trying to just dissuade everyone from expanding their consciousness in any way. So on this planet, in any third dimensional place, you're not rewarded for in any way choosing a path. It's more difficult, because the people that are the 1%, the 14% that are evil on this planet, and the 1% of them have leveraged themselves into control of everything. And they've done that on purpose so that they have control of it, so they can stifle anyone from becoming rewarded in any way for doing what I'm doing. You have to make a choice to do that. That's why it's called piety. You have to be the penitent being. And the only way that you can be penitent is to give up all of the wants and a seeking of power, control, fame, money, and all of that stuff, because you cannot be spiritual and be that way. It's not that you have to give that up just because someone said so. If you choose to become spiritual, none of that becomes important to you anymore. That is the natural origin of the species. That is what happens. Okay, so the other way around, if you exclude the idea of a creator and any kind of God, and you just go, that's all just a lie and made up, then you're living in the flesh, and the only thing that is important to you is power, money, fame, control, wealth. That's what becomes very important to you, and you seek that more than anything else. And then you get worried as you get older, I'm about to die, and then you're concerned because now you're starting to look in the physical for some fountain of youth in some way to make yourself live longer, when longevity has more to do with spirituality than it does anything else. Just like gravity has more to do with spirituality than it does anything else, than it does a rotation of the planet. The planet's not spinning any faster than it was spinning before. right? But there's a difference. So why is it that the Earth has? Oh, it's because it's bigger than the moon, and so therefore it has more. It's denser. Well, there's no theory. That's a theory. No one has ever gone to the core of this planet to prove that the core is copper and that it's generating electricity that's holding everybody here. That's a theory that they said, well, if we can make a generator and it creates energy, then the planet must be doing the same. That's not how it works, but that's what everybody assumes, right? We're realizing now with electromagnetism and magnets that that's not the case. Friction is not the way that energy is created. That's the way we've created it, because if you're living in the flesh, you have to create energy by killing something else, by blowing something up, fire, burning something, detonating gasoline by taking a cylinder and smashing the gasoline vapor into an explosion, and then siphoning off that explosion and putting it into running the vehicle. That's the internal combustion engine. Or rocket fuel by exploding, burning the fuel, and then utilizing that to create a force to push you, compel you forward. E equals mc squared. Energy times mass squared is the escape velocity of the planet. So you now have to take the mass of a thing. You have to know exactly what that mass and the friction of that, or the how well it streams through the air. And now you have to have enough energy, that is energy times mass squared, plus the gravitational pull as a constant on that. And you have to put enough fuel to push that thing up through and past all of this gravitational pull and the mass of itself. That's what all that means. E equals mc squared. That is just how you get off the Earth currently, by using rocket propelled rockets, rocket with gasoline in it of some sort. And then once you get into space, none of that works anymore. There is not enough oxygen in space to create fire. So once they got into space, the only way that they can maneuver around is to have gas and oxygen, because we have more of that than anything else. That's the best gas we have on the Earth. When you get up into space, you have to go psh, 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 with oxygen and have little thrusters. And that's how you move around when you're in space, because fire doesn't work there. Okay. Fire only works in an area that has enough oxygen to consume with that fire. That doesn't happen because space is a vacuum. Okay. Denise said, Leo, I needed this tonight. Thank you so much. You've helped me. I hope so. I thank you. I hope that every time I'm on, that I help somebody to in some way. That's what that's my goal, is help you guys in some way, right? Like, it looks like we lost most of the new people. They all bailed. I know Rick had to leave because he said, a couple of times he was only going to be here for an hour, and then he was going to bail because he's got plans. I'm all right with that. Whatever. No one's ever required to do anything. But like I said to the new people, you're going to either think I'm crazy and run, or you're going to think I'm lying and making things up, or it'll just be too much for you. And if it's somewhere in the middle and you're still here, then good on to you. I hope that you still are. Right? Okay, so let's continue here.
Into the book as it is. If you can answer it without me reading it, it would save time. Otherwise, I will read it. Ra, I am Ra. We understand your desire to preserve your opportunity. However, a summary of the query would be well. For if we answer a mentally requested query, this query shall not be published. If you wish...
Yeah, Cody's over on YouTube, so I don't know if, Cassie, if you can see her when she answers you, because she's coming into the chat here. Cassie said, Cody, are you doing heat and ice? And then Cody said, I'm here, but she's over on YouTube, so it's coming into my chat, but it's not coming into the chat on Facebook. But Cody is here, and she does hear you, or she's here. So I don't know if she's reading your chat either, unless she's bebopping back and forth. That's the problem with the two different platforms, including I'm on Twitter as well, right? Right. So thank you. Joanne says, or Joanna, no, Joanne said, I'm still listening. Thank you. I'm glad you're still here. I don't know if everybody else is. So let's continue. So they're talking about this book, and we'll get into that. So I know that I kind of went off topic, but you'll see how that comes back around. A lot of times people think I ramble, and I don't. I just get ahead of myself. So later on when we're going, all go, remember what I said earlier? And then it becomes more clear. So let's continue.
This answer to be for private use only. We shall proceed. 42.2 Questioner. I will just read it very rapidly. The question. Then, I am going to make a statement and ask you to comment on its degree of accuracy. I am assuming that the balanced entity would not be swayed either towards positive or negative emotions by any situation which he might confront. By remaining unemotional in any situation, the balanced entity may clearly discern the appropriate and necessary responses in harmony with the law of one for each situation. Most entities on our planet find themselves unconsciously caught up into every emotional situation which they come in contact with according to their own unique biases, and because of these biases are unable to see clearly teach/learning opportunities and appropriate response in each emotional situation, and must therefore, through a process of much trial and error and enduring of resulting pain, repeat such situations many times until they become consciously aware of the need to balance.
Okay, so remember what I said earlier? This was from the earlier session. We hadn't gotten to 42 yet, about if you're getting triggered by different things or an emotional response to different things, right? And I want to clarify that a little bit because I was thinking about this last night or the night before, and thinking that I should explain a little bit more in detail here when we get to this, because the different things. Okay, remember when I was saying organically, you're supposed to have an organic experience, and sometimes psychics can't tell you certain things about what's going to happen in your future. And this goes back to what Denise asked a couple of weeks ago about being able to see your own future. So I think it was 3 weeks ago now, right? We're on 81. I think it was 74 or 75 class. So we're looking at about a month ago when Denise asked, can you see your own halls of Amente or Akashic records? Can you see those and see your own future? And I said yes and no, because even your own future is going to be hidden from you by your higher self, because there's certain things that you're supposed to organically go through down here. So for instance, some people will say, man, people keep dropping dead around me. I've lost like 6 people in the last year. Well, I don't understand that. Why is God doing this to me? First of all, God's not doing anything. You have decided all of this. What this place does, this place is organic. Okay, it thinks it's real. That's why I made a meme that said this isn't happening. It just thinks it is. This place isn't sentient in the way that we are, and that was discussed last week or the week before. But it does listen to the input of the co-creators, all of us in here. So if I design in my life that I need to learn in this lifetime the loss of people around me, the loss of siblings or someone that I care for or someone that I love, then what's going to happen is the universe, this place, is going to start giving me, when I'm consciously to a place of being able to see this and learn this lesson, it's going to enable me to have that experience. And if I don't get it the first time, it's going to enable me again and again and again and again. It's going to continue to put in front of me that lesson that I designed for myself. It's worked into my life. So even though there's a bunch of chaos and everybody has free will and everybody is interacting with each other, you're going to run into the same events happening to you over and over until you realize whatever it is that you have designed for yourself to learn from that experience, whatever you're supposed to be learning from that experience. And then once you do, then that experience, you may still have people around you die, because that's part of the human condition, is that everybody in your family, if you live long enough, they're all going to die around you, and you're going to be the last man standing. I mean, hence the comedy Last Man Standing. So that's good, but the loss is going to now be less, and you're going to realize that you've already gone through whatever it is that you were supposed to go through to learn that. And so then you become the person who's able to deal with someone's loss while everybody else is going through the loss. And people go, why aren't you crying? Why are you? Well, because somebody has to be the one that is being able to be clear-headed and take care of and help assist everyone else to go through that. And it's not that you don't care, that you care less. It's that you've gone through that major loss and and that trying time. And now you know that somebody has to be the one that is going to stay and cry later and help these people go through that and fix things and do all the things that need to be done that are necessary. And I'm just using death around you as one example. So the universe will continue putting this stuff in front of you. And this is what Ra's talking about, that it'll continue giving you the option. The same thing with if you're not realizing, because of the law of attraction, and that's what the law of attraction is. If you're not realizing why you keep having the same problem with relationships, then it's something about you that you're not fixing. It's the common denominator. It's you. It's not all the people that you keep getting around you. You keep pulling all those people in around you. So until you realize what is it about myself that needs to change, I need to make a change in me so that I don't attract these people. Do you see? So you're supposed to expand your consciousness in that respect. So that happens in everything. I got fired from like 5 jobs. Well, what are you doing wrong? Oh, nothing. Every time I go to work for somebody, they're evil and they fire me. Well, then you have to start. If that's true, if you've actually looked at that and you realize you're actually not doing anything wrong and what you're doing wrong is not being evil, then that means you're looking for a job where too many evil people are, because they're seeing you as not evil and that you're completely different from them. So if that's true, and it's not that you're the one who's creating that problem by stealing or being evil in some way and people will fire you, and it's literally what you're saying, then you need to change that what job you're looking for, because you keep finding a job that has a bunch of evil people there that don't like you. So that means you need to pick a different career. Do you see? Everything needs to be turned always. You need to recognize what's going on around you. My father drummed that into us when we were very young, to always try to find, always look on the bright side of life, always try to see, or am I the problem? You're either the problem or you're the solution. So if you're the problem, you need to fix with yourself whatever it is that is lacking, so that you don't draw that in anymore. And if you have tried everything, then what is it that you keep doing? Where do you keep going to where you're beating your head against the same, beating a dead horse, hitting your head against the same brick wall? Stop doing that. Do you see? If you're hitting your head against a brick wall and it's hurting and you're bloody, eventually you realize maybe I should stop banging my head into that brick wall because it's bloodying my head. I'm the one doing it. So the same thing is occurring. If you're not being the evil one and they're getting rid of you because you're evil, then those people that you keep, that job that you keep going back to has more evil people there, and they hate you because you're not evil. I had that happen to me when I was in retail. I was like, why do all these people hate me in retail? And they're always trying to get rid of me. What is going on? And then I realized it's because I'm not supposed to be in retail, because retail is a bunch of evil people. It's the same thing as politics. It's the same thing as corporate. The corporate ladder is the same as politics. It's the religion of evil people. So evil people are going to be in that area more. So if I wanted to not be surrounded by evil people, then the politics of that, then I have to choose a different path. So I didn't like sales, because sales meant you had to lie to people to be successful. That's evil. So I didn't want to concede that, and I choose not to do it. So I tried to be retail. I'm good at it, and if I'm not running my own company, then that means I'm working for people who are stabbing everybody in the back while they're trying to stab the guy in the back who's trying to stab them, because they're trying to move up the corporate ladder because they're evil and they want power, money, and fame. So I had to get out of that industry completely, but it took me like 10 years to figure it out. I was a retail manager for almost 12 years. It took me 12 years to then say, I got to get out of here. Then I realized that it was in everything. I went into construction and maintenance, and it was still there. So the only way that I could get away from all of that completely was to either run my own company, which I started doing, and I did that for a while, or choose spirituality, to go into it 100%. So I've literally chosen this, and this is what I'm doing. I'm never going to get rich at it. Do you see? So that it has to do with balancing the chakras as well, right? The realization of how you're out of whack, and the realization of whether you're becoming over emotional about something and being triggered about something, or over angry about something. You should never be triggered in any way by anything. Honestly, I'm not saying that you should be completely unemotional, but if you're getting triggered and getting angry, you have to choose that. That means you have to, in your mind, set it up. If someone says Trump, I'm going to get really mad. If someone calls me the C word and I'm a woman, I'm going to get mad. That's programming, where you're going, I have to fly off the handle and become evil when they do that. Don't fuck with me and say that word, or I'm going to have to go crazy on you. That's a choice that you have made, whether or not you are aware of it. And when you're young, it's programmed into you by your parents, your siblings, people around you in society, right? And then television. That's why they're called programs. They're not called television shows. They're called programs by the very people who create them. It's a program, okay? Because it's programming you in the way they want. That's why I post that on my Facebook page where it has the newscaster and it says, it's 6 o'clock, up next, what we want you to believe, what we want you to think. Because that's what they're doing. It's programming, okay? You have to become aware of that. The first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. You have to become aware of those things so that you can fix those things. So the only way you can fix those things is to know that they have affected you and are affecting you. Again, how are some of our chakras out of balance? Yeah, probably all the time. If you're not constantly balancing them, they're out of tune. Is my emotional state out of balance? If you're not constantly putting it back into state, you're out of balance. And do I have evil energy attached to me? If you're not cleansing yourself daily, all day long, then yes, because that's what this place does. You have to assume that. If you look back in history to, like, say, the Knights Templar back in the 1100s or the 1000s, they believed that there was so much evil in the inherent in this world that the very air they breathed had evil in it. They were a little more correct in their thought process, but a little askew, because that would suggest, like now, where people think there's more evil in the world, or it's stronger or is equal to good, and that's where it's gone awry. But they did that in a way that would allow them to say evil is in everything. It's inherent in everything. The nature of the beast, the number of the beast, 666 being the number of the beast. That is the human condition, is the beast. It's not the devil. It's not an evil entity. It's not demons, evil entities, although they do exist, but not in the way that you think. And literally, it is this place. But this place is both heaven and hell. It's determined by where you place yourself. Okay? That is why God is everything and nothing. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. I am everything and I am nothing. That is the 9 energy that governs the 3 and the 6, that govern all the numbers of the Taurus. That is the beginning and the end. 9 is nothing and all. It is 0 and 9 is one thing. So the 9 energy is both nothingness and everything, the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. That is the hex boson, the God particle, the logos, the creation. Okay. So you have to place yourself to that. That's the only balance that you can actually have. And that's what we talk about when we say you have to have the balance of light and darkness, good and evil. It's not that I walk the gray line and I can be as evil as I want when I want and as good as I want when I want. That's not it entirely. It's the other end of the spectrum. You have to be everything and nothing all at once. That is the infinity, the infinite wisdom, the expansion of your consciousness to I am everything and nothing. So that's when, like when Merlin had said to Arthur, when after Merlin was banished and he was no longer in the physical plane, and he came to Arthur in his dream, and he said, "Are you a dream, Merlin?" And Merlin said, "I am a dream to some and a nightmare to others. I am everything and nothing at the same time." So for those who are good souls, they're going to see me as the dream, which is everything and nothing. But for those who are in the flesh, I am a nightmare. I am the worst thing that they could possibly ever imagine, because I am not of the flesh. I am not evil. To them, I am evil because I am the opposite of them. And that's what he was referring to. That is the Alpha and the Omega. So you have to realize that. And so to be triggered, to get back on point, we'll get right back to Ra, to be triggered in any way, be it emotionally, be it psychologically, be it spiritually, if you think there's a war between good and evil and I have to fight, then you're out of balance. Or you're living in the lower chakras, because the lower chakras is conflict. War, conflict, fighting is below the green ray chakra. It's in the bottom 3 chakras. It is this physical place and the ideology of the doing. I have to do something. I have to fight and stop evil because there's a war. There is a war, but it's a spiritual war that goes on that also this is really hard for you to understand because it's hard for you to understand because of understanding. If you're understanding, you're in the lower three chakras and you're standing under your heart. Therefore, you're standing under someone's will. Do you understand me? Do you stand under me? And if you're understanding, and this is why people say understand to overstand. And people don't understand that concept, and it's really hard because you can't unless you're understanding, which means that you're going within and you're ascending in a spiritual way, and then you overstand this entire thing because you're now moving into the higher chakras and you don't stand under anyone. You don't submit to anyone's will anymore. And so you're overstanding and you're overwatch. That's why the band Five Finger Death Punch, when he wrote a song and he said, instead of saying I'm over it, he said I'm under it and over it. And most people didn't get what he was saying when he was saying I'm under it and over it. When people were talking smack about him and saying that he was a sellout. That's what the whole song was about. And the chorus wasn't, I'm over that. He said, I'm under it and over it. Because he was not understanding it. He was understanding it and overstanding it. So I'm under it and over it meant I'm not submitting to it in any way. I'm understanding this and I'm overstanding it. So I'm over it. Right, I'm under it and over it. He's not addressing it. He's under it and over it. So he's literally bypassing the physical, and he's not concerned with whether or not they care, whether he's selling out. I'm doing what I'm doing, and my message is helping the world, and that is what we are about. So all this other stuff is just nonsense to me. Right. So instead of buying into it and being baited by it and defending himself, there's no reason for him to defend himself. To defend yourself in the respect of the physical, when somebody accuses you of something, if it's something that is an accusatory thing that other people can't know or have to go to court over, then you get stuck in that and have to do that. But if it's not, and it's just people lying about you online, I won't defend myself either. People are like, aren't you going to defend yourself? No, I'm going to allow people to make up their own mind because they're going to do that anyways. I'm not going to try and sway anyone. If people want to say I'm evil and I'm doing that stuff, you watch. You look into it yourself and make your determination. And that's what I do. And people are like, aren't you concerned that people are going to walk away from you? Nope, because I don't require anyone's allegiance. I am not trying to make a harem. I am not trying to make a religion. I am not trying to make a school to where you got to move in and we're going to have this place and I'm going to build a housing and have everybody there and have everybody do work for me so I don't have to do anything. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to expand your consciousness and give you back your free will so that you can organically ascend the way you were intended to ascend according to the laws of creation. That's what I'm trying to do. So I cannot convince you of anything, and I know that, and I'm not going to try. Evil people will try to convince you of everything because they're desperate to do so. They have to. And if you won't listen to them, they have to dominate you. So I am the opposite of that. I encourage you not to believe a word I'm saying. I encourage you to think for yourself. I encourage you to look everything up and go down every rabbit hole. I encourage you not to believe a word of anything that anyone says, to question everything. That's not what you're going to hear from the opposite side. The opposite side is going to say, I'll tell you what you need to know and you have to trust me. Okay? Anyone who starts talking to you like that is trying to convince you of something. Otherwise, they're not going to stifle you. They're going to say, go look it up. Go look it up. Let me give you a fact checker place. You can look it up where we had to decide to tell you the truth because that person's lying. Let's fact check that person. Anyone who says that is about to lie to you 100% of the time, no matter which side they claim they're on. If somebody claims they're on a side, they have an agenda. Do you see? Then they have an agenda. Otherwise, they wouldn't try to think that they had to be the one to point out to you. They're looking for a fight. I have to tell you because you don't know because they're lying to you. And I know that they're lying to you, so I have to tell you they're lying to you. Anyone who thinks that, even if they have great intentions, they are in the lower chakras and they're looking for a fight. That is the physical. That is this plane. Well, somebody has to do that. No, No one has to do anything except for look it up for themselves and make up their own minds. If you are bamboozled by them, eventually you'll figure it out or you won't. I am not the Savior. I am not Jesus. I am not the Christ. I am not here to try and to save your soul. I'm here to free it. I'm here to give you back free will. I'm not here to say, I will take on the judgment of all the evils of this earth. That was already done 2,000 years ago. I don't need to do it. Not that person. Not here for that reason. Don't think I am. Right? I don't think I am. I'm not trying to pretend I am. I don't have that delusion of grandeur. That is not me. That was a different person who is a great soul who came here on purpose to prove to the entire world what's going on. I'm the follow-up that has gotten here with all the other billions of us that are the follow-up who came here to go, no, you really do have free will. Those people, you can believe what you want. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know you can believe what you want. They don't encourage you to look things up on your own. They encourage you to go to a certain place that they have already set up for you with a message. You go to this place and it'll be the fact checker place. Go here. Don't do this on your own. Even in the churches, they tell you the same thing about, don't you read that Bible on your own. You're not going to understand it because I'm so much superior than you are and I know more than you do. And therefore, I know that you're not smart enough to learn it on your own. Okay, so therefore, you have to wait for me to tell you what to think. Up next at 6 o'clock, what we want you to think. Do you see? Okay. So Joanne says, you recognize that that those that are still pushing for greed, how much they are developed and how far they need to go and what lessons they have to learn in this lifetime or maybe the next. Inner peace helps you have the compassion for those that are struggling within the fight for riches. We can only work on ourselves, correct, and project the vibrations of peace and harmony. That is 100% correct. So, but you have to come to that realization, right? You have to strive at some point within yourself, making the choice before you can come to that realization, or you won't, right? If you're living in the bottom three chakras, you'll never come to that realization because that is completely beyond your capacity for thought because you don't care about that. You care about money, power, fame. So the realization that is a thing, like you said, is an expansion of consciousness and a choice that you have made to then start to ascend in a positive way. And then you have to realize that. And then you have to allow people to fail on their own, but be there for them to pick them up and kiss the boo-boo and tell them that it's okay. So you start becoming the adult, and then you have to allow your kid to fall down, to make bad decisions. Because if you try to stop them from doing it, then they're not going to organically learn it. Do you see? So that's exactly a great concept because it is. And you can't just like sit back and do nothing. You have to be there as the example for them. But at some point, you have to realize that it isn't a war. It isn't a fight, right? Right. Okay. So yeah. So you literally, I'm glad that you're doing that. Not everybody is aware of that. You become aware of that as you start your ascension, right? And then you can move into those places, but you have to make that determination at some point when you reach the green ray, the heart chakra. The evil people still have access to the heart chakra. They just can't create. Creation is above that. It goes in the wisdom and in the knowing, and they don't get to do that, so they can't create. That's why I've said this before, and you can look it up in history. Don't believe me. Show me some evil person who invented anything. They never invent anything. They steal it from somebody else who invented it. And eventually, like Mark Zuckerberg, his partner sued him and said, I'm the one that created that algorithm. Well, that just disappeared. There was never a party that Mark Zuckerberg had that said, see, told you, I won the case. He didn't. That just got quiet, which means that he paid the guy off and had him sign a non-disclosure agreement not to tell the world that Mark Zuckerberg stole it, but he was able to keep it and used his money to buy the guy off because that's probably what the guy wanted anyways. Right. So the same thing happens. Bill Gates did the same thing where there's a movie about that. We talked about that. You guys can look at that up. There's a movie about his life where he stole the concept, the programming from Apple, got their computer. Someone was infiltrated the company and stole the computer, got it back in there. And he said, I want this before this motherfucker hits the market. And so they recreated it and called it Windows and got it out there and sold it to all the companies. So Apple had to make their own computers and continued doing that and were successful, but nowhere near making as much money as Microsoft did, because Microsoft made sure that to contract all the corporations who were building the physical computers to put their product on it. And they did the same thing going forward. Google did the same thing. My phone has like 5 Google apps that I can't delete because Google signed the contract with those people to make sure I have to have their product on my phone. That's the resolve of what they do. So you have to realize that they know it. That's why they try to contract out people to do things for them, and then they take it from them if they get in any way annoyed with them or that people don't play ball. They'll pay you off to keep you into the game and do stuff for them forever, right? But you have to come to that realization, which you have, which is a good sign. All right, let's continue.
Their energy centers and thusly their responses and behaviors. Once a person becomes consciously aware of the need to balance their energy centers and responses, the next step is to allow the appropriately positive or negative responses to emotional situations to flow smoothly through their being without retaining any of the emotional coloration after it has been consciously observed and allowed to flow through the being. And I am assuming that this ability to consciously observe the positively or negatively charged energy flowing through the being may be augmented by practice of the balancing exercises you have given us, with the result in balance being achieved for the entity, which would allow him to remain unemotional and undistorted in regards to the law of one in any situation, much like the objective viewer of the television movie. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is an incorrect application of the balancing which we have discussed. The exercise of first experiencing feelings and then consciously discovering their antitheses within the being has as its objective not the smooth flow of feelings, both positive and negative, while remaining unswayed, but rather the objective of becoming unswayed. This is a simpler result and takes much practice, shall we say. The catalyst of experience works in order for the learn/teachings of this density to occur. However, if there is seen in the being a response, even if it is simply observed, the entity is still using the catalyst for learn/teaching. The end result is that the catalyst is no longer needed. Thus this density is no longer needed. This is not indifference or objectivity, but a finely tuned compassion and love which sees all things as love. This seeing elicits no response due to catalytic reactions. Thus the entity is now able to become co-creator of experiential occurrences. This is the truer balance. 42.3 questioner.
See, so this is what I let that play because of that, right? So literally, as you move up, you become a co-creator. Then that's where the law of attraction, you realize the law of attraction, you realize that what you put out is what you get in, and then you start to design that, and that's where you can become a creator, because you're creating out of love, and that is the logos. Logos is the ancient word, the Greek word that means love. So the universe itself can only be created out of love, and you can only create through love. You have to be self-aware of things and not self-serving. You have to be self-sacrificing and be willing to create for the betterment of the all. And people who are in service to self, people who are evil, will not and cannot do that because they're about themselves. They want everything. Because they want everything, they can't create because they refuse to help anyone. They're all trying to help themselves. So therefore, the creative ability becomes less and less, and they can't really create. The only thing they can do is control something that's already in existence. They can manipulate, they can control, they can take it, they can take credit for it, and then they can get paid for it. But they are not actually capable of creating something because they refuse to create anything to help the rest of the world, because they're not about that. They're about themselves. Okay. So the creative ability goes away when you're in the lower 3 chakras. You don't have access to that creative ability. You have to expand your consciousness into the heart chakra and love for others, not just for yourself. That's the only way that works. So evil people cannot create. They can just take from people who can and take credit for it. But ultimately, they can't actually do it themselves. That's why they won't, because they're about themselves. So therefore, they're not going to go, well, I'm going to create this website to make money. Well, yeah. So what you're going to do is you're going to take someone else's concept that is already out there. You're going to put that into a website, and then you're going to exploit that to make money. They won't invent anything. They're only going to take pieces of things that are already there and then just utilize it. So that's why inventions were always invented by people who are trying to help the world. Then people get control of that invention and use it to make money for themselves. Do you see? That's how that works. Okay, I think I'm going to call it early this week because it's getting darker. We're having this crazy storm here in California right now that's coming down from the north. It's actually blizzard conditions up in the mountains. And we're supposed to be having rain down here, but it's not as crazy as it was 3 weeks ago, to where we had the power shut off out here, and like almost all of California was down for like 12 hours. It's not quite that bad, but it's getting darker out there, and it's getting a little bit more windy. And it's getting a little bit later, so I'm going to call it early this week and quit now so that I can keep an eye on my mom and make sure that take care of her and get dinner instead of going like 3 hours every Friday. I should really only do an hour, but it's hard to answer your guys' questions and get into any details without going long. So we're already an hour and 45 minutes in. Maybe I'll go another few questions, try to take it to the 2 hour mark. So if you guys have any questions, currently, really quick, if you have questions, ask them now, because I'm going to try and give you another 15 minutes. Okay. So if you have questions, 2 hours and it's 12:45 a.m. for you, right? You're in the UK. See, so for you guys, it's late anyway. I've gone early. Back to my show used to be on at like 5 p.m. I think I originally did it at 6, and then I went to 5, then I went to 4, and now I'm starting at 3 my time, which is still you're 8 hours ahead of me. The only way I can do a show for you guys would be to go at noon, which is still 8 p.m. for you, but then nobody in America would be on the show because everybody's at work here. So it's really hard and difficult to be live for everybody around the world because of the way the planet works. Just like, people in Australia, it's morning for them, right? It was like 8 in the morning when I went live at 3 in the afternoon. For me, it's 8 tomorrow morning for them. So it's just almost impossible for me. Some of you, but you guys in Europe stay up later than people in America anyways. Every time I talk to people over there, I'm up at like midnight, and you guys are still up, and it's like 3, 4 in the morning for you guys. I'm like, what are you guys still doing up? Right? You guys should be sleeping. Right. Or actually, it's even further than that. But like now, you guys are still up at like 1 o'clock in the morning, 12:45. So if you guys have questions, please throw one in the chat. Otherwise, I'll let maybe Raw take another thing here, and then we'll just go. Like I said, I'll try and throw it to the 2 hour mark here. Let's see.
I will attempt to make an analogy. If an animal, shall I say a bull in a pen, attacks you because you have wandered into his pen, you get out of his way rapidly, but you do not blame him. Or, you do not have much of an emotional response other than the fear response that he might damage you. However, if you encounter another self in his territory and he attacks you, your response may be more of an emotional nature, creating physical bodily responses. Am I correct in assuming that when your response to the animal and to the other self, seeing both as the creator and loving both and understanding their action in attacking you as the action of their free will, then you have balanced yourself correctly in this area? Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is basically correct. However, the balanced entity will see in the seeming attack of another self the causes of this action, which are, in most cases, of a more complex nature than the cause of the attack of the second density bull, as was your example. Thus this balanced entity would be open to many more opportunities for service to a third density other self. 42.4 Questioner, would a perfectly balanced entity feel an emotional response when being attacked by the other self? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. The response is love. 42.5 Questioner, in the illusion that we now experience, it is difficult to maintain this response, especially if the entity's attack results in physical pain, but I assume that this response should be maintained even through physical loss of life or extreme pain. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct, and further is of a major or principal importance in understanding, shall we say, the principle of balance. Balance is not indifference, but rather the observer not blinded by any feelings of separation, but rather fully imbued with love. 42.6
Okay, so I will stop there, but because I'm going to explain this, right? So when Jesus said, turn the other cheek, everyone's going, oh, so if somebody punches you in the face, you're supposed to let them just beat you to death. That's not what that means. This is what that means. You're not supposed to become them. You're not supposed to take vengeance, get angry, and, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. You're not supposed to do those things. Turn the other cheek means to stay focused in your determination. Don't let them just beat you to death. Stop them from doing that, but don't then in turn try to beat them to death. That's what that means. Turn the other cheek means don't do that. Don't destroy them because they tried to destroy you. Don't just murder them because they were going to do to them. Don't do to them. That's why it says do unto others what you would have them do unto you. And then some people say, no, I should do unto others before they do unto me. That's assuming that they think like you and they're going to try and kill you. So you should just kill them and get it out of the way. If that's the case, you just become a mass murderer and a serial killer because you want to kill everybody before they can kill you. So then you're just a murderer. Then do you see? So I should do unto others before they do unto me because I'm going to see. Well, then you're judging them by you. If it were me, I would be trying to do this to them, so I better do it to them now, right? So that means you're evil. Do you see? And you know that that's what you would be doing. And so you're assuming that they are doing what you would be doing. So literally you're supposed to have the realization, and that's where he's saying that, in fact, when they ask, talking about when Dawn says, well, there's because Ra had told them there's this entity that is trying to kill Carla in the fourth density outside of this dimension, occupying the same space as an assassin that's evil trying to kill her. Well, how should we combat this? And Ra says, greet them with the love and the light of the infinite creator. So again, reiterating here that you should not turn to hate them and want to destroy them. You should learn to stop them. That's why I think everybody should learn self-defense. Everybody should learn martial arts to defend so that people cannot harm you. That doesn't mean that you now go, okay, I'm better than that person and they came to me and tried to hurt me. Now I'm going to have to kill them to prove my point. I'm going to have to break them off to prove my point. Now you're becoming what they are. You're no different than them now if that's what you do. So the whole purpose is to live by the example of, and that's why the television show Kung Fu currently now is a little bit more aggressive than it was back in the 70s when David Carradine was playing Kwai Chang Kang as a Shaolin priest. He was never the aggressor. That's why the Jedi Knight is never the aggressor. That's why the Jedi Knight only reacts to other people attacking them and does not try to murder and kill and that's why Batman also never, that was his one rule. He would not kill people because he would not become that which he was fighting against. So he would defend the defenseless, he would defend himself, but he would never then go on the aggression and try to kill somebody. He might go on the aggression to stop them from attacking him or to subdue a bad person, right, from doing crimes, but his intent was never to kill them. Do you see? So these lessons are there for you to learn throughout all of these stories and all of time that are trying to show you the same thing, that you're supposed to not become the very thing that you're trying to stop, because then you're no different than that person. So if somebody's trying to murder you and then you kill them, you've become them. So now what that's where the living by the sword and dying by the sword, evil begets evil. So then just like what's going on, let's just say, for instance, in the Middle East right now with the Palestinians and the Israelis. So what's happening is the exact same thing. So both sides claim the other side is murdering their people, and they've been doing it for thousands of years. That war is going to perpetuate itself forever, because now the Israelis are saying that the only way there can be peace is we have to kill all of them. Not all of the civilians, but all of Hamas, to stop them from being a terrorist organization. That is going to do nothing but embolden more people that are Palestinians to want to kill the Hebrews, to kill the Jewish people. So what is happening is that you're going to have a war and a lot of people are going to die. And let's say that eventually the Israelis wipe Hamas off. Now, what are they going to do? They're going to occupy the territory. That's going to cause more people to get angry who are Palestinians in other parts of the world to then try to get them out and cause that war. Even if there is a ceasefire for a time, they're going to be planning to then retaliate, because they were aggressive, and you have to realize that point of view determines a person's reality. So all the Palestinians see them as evil. All the Israelis see them as evil. Until they both stop that will continue to happen forever. Do you see? So war is always bad because nobody wins. Even if you occupy someone and then you have to beat them into submission, now you have become the evil that they were claiming you were to begin with. Do you see? So they claim, well, it wasn't our fault. They attacked us. Well, they say they attacked you because you attacked them. So you keep going backwards further and further. And they say, well, they're illegitimate because they were not even a country and we don't acknowledge them as a country. The Irish weren't acknowledged by the English as a free and sovereign nation from 1916 during the Easter Uprising until 1997. That didn't stop the Irish from being their own free and sovereign nation the entire time. Okay, the English finally acknowledged them as a free and sovereign nation. That didn't make them legitimate at the time because they were already a free and sovereign nation from the moment they put up a wall and said, you don't get to be here. This is our own country and we have our own politics and our own shit. Okay, like America. America signed the Declaration of Independence and said, we're no longer part of your nation. The king didn't acknowledge that and sent people over here, and there was a war that went on for 7 years. That didn't change the fact that the people over here said, we're still not, we're going to fight against you. Okay. Now, if the Americans would have then invaded England to go after them because England was occupying them and came over to try and kill them, then that would have continued the conflict, which would have been going today. Do you see? But they didn't do that. Neither did the Irish. The Irish stopped. And eventually there was still conflict in the north because they were still trying to get that. But eventually they agreed on both sides to let the people in the north vote on where they wanted to be and acknowledge that. And that was going to be the end of it. And that's where they are today. There's still people that are bitter because there's always going to be people that are bitter. Okay. Do you see? Same thing with the Civil War in the United States over slavery. And let's not have any qualms about it. The United States Civil War was about slavery. The people in the South, which were 100% Democrats, who started the Ku Klux Klan afterwards, 2 million people in the Ku Klux Klan, all Democrats, they wanted slavery to stay in place. And the people that were Republicans wanted to free the slaves. And they went to war with one another, and the South lost. Then they started a Klan to still keep killing black people who were not slaves, who were just trying to stop them from getting ahead. Now, come forward in time till now, and those same Democrats and that party try to convince everybody that the Republicans were the ones that did it all. But if you actually learn history, you'll find out that that's not true at all. Okay, the very first president that was a Republican was Abraham Lincoln, and Abraham Lincoln was an abolitionist who ran on the Republican ticket and then signed the Declaration to free the slaves. And the people now who are Democrats who are trying to tell you that the only reason he did it is because he had people made him do it. That's a lie. He ran to do that. He didn't want to go to civil war, and he wrote a paper saying that if I sign this, it's going to cause the civil war, and people are going to murder one another. Americans are going to kill each other. It started anyways, and then he said, well, Emancipation Proclamation, because now it's already done. And if you guys think that was a lie, his concern was that more Americans were going to die during that time period, and it was going to be horrific. And people now, because it's 100 years, a couple hundred years since the war, 1776, that was the Revolutionary War, 1862 to 1962 was 100, so 160 years ago. And literally from that time when that war ended until today, we still have not surpassed the number of Americans who died in combat during that war, with all the wars combined that we've been a part of, the World War II, World War I, the Spanish-American War, every conflict we've ever been in, Vietnam, Korea, the Middle East with the Iran, Iraq, all of that, we still have not had the number of Americans die in that short 5-year war that was the revolution or the Civil War here in the United States, combined all of those deaths. So his concerns were legit. The amount of American soldiers, the amount of American men who died is horrific, and women who is horrific. Okay, it's now 5 o'clock, so I'm going to call it. You guys have a great night. We'll end there and go back. So you're supposed to learn to see that, know that, turn the other cheek, not become that evil, and not become that evil to defeat that evil. You're supposed to still love them for who they are and realize that, like Jesus said on the cross, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Okay. All right, you guys. I love you guys. Have a great night. I will see you guys next week.